Hey YouTube, like and subscribe, never say that. So, here we have an Ibanez GRx70. So, I'm not really 100% sure what to do with this. Basically, I cleaned it up and put the right coloured knobs on it. It's pretty damn good. These were from about, I think it's 2000 to 2002 they were made. Available in black, blue, or not, yeah. Or silver or blue, I think is the other option, but silver it's looking good. So obviously I got it in thinking I might paint it up, but I kind of like the silver. It's kind of got a bit of class to it. Yeah, so this is all stock. All I've done is really set it up and clean it. So we've got, I'm not sure these are the right knobs. I just put black Strat knobs on it because I had them. They look kind of right. So we've got an HSH layout, a Strat trem. So 5-way lever switch with automatic coil splitting, which I don't see that mentioned in any of the. I looked it up on Wikipedia, to be honest, and it didn't mention it, automatic coil splitting. So the way this works is, in the two outside positions you get the two humbuckers, and then so neck humbucker in position 5, then 4 is this automatic coil split, and the middle, so you get like Strat position 4. In the middle is just a single coil on its own. Position 2 is this one, coil split, and then Strat position 2, which is a really nice layout. You know, I'm one for putting switches and stuff in these things. I don't know what really put a switch in to do, really. You can't get the outside two coils, which I like, you know, for the sort of Telecaster-y type thing where you get a single coil on the bridge, a single coil on the neck together. It doesn't do that, so I might do a switch that does that. But apart from that, you've got the two. And to be honest, on a 2 humbucker guitar, I very rarely ever use both humbuckers at the same time. It's like, so this kind of gives you the lot, really. Yeah, so we're playing through solid state Carlton just now. This is the would be position 4. So this is a humbucker basically. And then there's quite a drop in power when you go from the sort of Gibson-y sound into the. Middle position. So currently this is the only way you can get a single coil on its own. I've got reverb on. Turn it down a wee bit. The knob and this amp's on the back. A wee bit less reverb maybe. I'll turn that knob the right way. What the heck? Okay. Knob goes the other way. And then position 2, which is a single coil, basically Strat position 2. And then humbucker in the bridge. So basically the way I always run it is I figure single coils are nice clean, humbuckers not so much. And I kind of like the single coils and the humbuckers when I've got the distortion on, because most of the time I've got the distortion on. In this case I'll go for a rat pedal. So bridge humbucker versus the metal. Position 2. I've turned into much more of a single coil lover these days. Middle. This tone. Neck position. Tone back up. Yeah, so this kind of, I suppose, it's kind of like an RG, but not as pointy. So somewhere between an RG and a Strat, I suppose you would put it. Neck on it is very much a Strat neck though, which is nice. It's also got the straight ahead, whoa! You know, it's one piece neck, doesn't have the angled back thing going on, and hence it's got string trees. So neck profile is, I would say, I don't know, it's like, what do you call that, a D, a C? What's the difference between a C and a D? It's a C section. Yeah, but very nice. A decent rosewood fingerboard. I mean, you don't even get these things anymore. So this is actually technically vintage now, you know, because I mean, I think it was 2000 to 2003 they made them. I looked it up, but this one's an earlier one because silver wasn't available the whole time. I think silver was only 2000 and 2001. I can't remember. Something like that. So it's got some, yeah, vintage, 20 years old. If it's 20 years old, it's vintage. Yeah. So the obvious thing is you go about upgrading it, and to be honest, these pickups are really good. They're fine. I think they're just Ibanez home brand, the original ones. The trem as well is really good. It really returned. So I think this is what's happened with this guitar which is probably a sensible thing if you're a beginner had it. Although there was I'd done a wee bit of work in the frets to bring it back. There was some scuffing in it. Often on a beginner's guitar, you get dinks behind the cowboy chords, you know, the D's and the G's and stuff like that. This one didn't have that. This one had kind of more even wear all the way up. So maybe not somebody's first guitar, maybe their second guitar. But tremolos can be a bit of a nightmare if they're not set up right. You've got to set them to float. So if they don't float, they've got to go up. Otherwise they don't. Otherwise they never return to pitch. So I think probably the tremolo arm got lost. I put this one in, which fits absolutely perfectly. There you go, just stays where you want it. So I'm really thinking, the only thing I'm really considering doing is changing the tuners. Not that these don't work, they're fine. They're just, it's that type. You know, the enclosed type, which is normally where you're looking at it and you go, oh, the cheap guitar, they've got the enclosed type tuners. But they're not the cheapy ones. They may look, they're not awful. They're fine. I mean, I don't think Ibanez produce bad things really at all. But I do have a set of locking tuners I'm humming and hawing about putting them on. I'm just wondering about the effort of putting them on and putting the tuners on. Is it really going to make the guitar worth more money? I can't keep it. I've got too many guitars. Yes, actually, I remember when I was teaching. I used to teach guitar for a while. I had a few students, like 3 or 4 students. When I worked in the chip shop for the rest of the week, and one of the guys got one of these. It was the blue one though, and I couldn't believe how good it was. I mean, I was using my SG at the time, and I was like, wow, they weren't expensive, 150 quid, I think, something like that. And it's just, I was like, that's an amazing guitar. It didn't need setup. These came relatively set up. I know now if you're looking at buying one, who's to say, it's been 20 years, someone's might have been in at it, and any guitar, no matter how expensive it is, after 20 years does need adjusted. You know, wood moves over time. You know, this piece of wood, although it might have been perfectly set up and at the perfect straightness when it came out the factory, it's been 20 years that these strings have been pulling on it. It's going to need some adjustment. This one's sitting there absolutely perfect. And really, as I said, a clean, a fret polish, that was kind of, and a setup was kind of all I think it needed. So yes, don't be mocking. It does say GIO on it, but GIO only existed I've got a GIO bass, a 5-string bass, and I think it's 1999. And the 5-string bass I've got, they only made for 2 years. And in 1998, it was an Ibanez, whatever it was, G something bass. And then in 1999, it was exactly the same bass, but it said GIO on it. So I think 1999 is when GIO started. So this is like the first year or the second year of the GIOs. And I would look at that as a sort of quality symbol, because that's kind of when the bad guitars of the 90s kind of ended. I've had a few, even from Ibanez, that really... I mean, this is before GIO, so it was a full branded Ibanez. But in the 90s, they kind of... They hadn't yet worked out how to... They maybe didn't have the facility to buy cheap but still good hardware. You know, it's like the bridge in this is good. It's not one of those ones that's got the piece of metal instead of the block. It's got a proper block on it, and the pickups are decent. Well, I don't want to change them because I don't think there's sounding wrong with them. I think they're good. Actually, so it's kind of like, see, I've borrowed my pal's Joe Satriani guitar. It's kind of a bit more like that than it is like the Steve Vai one, because it's got the Strat neck. The RGs tend to have like the thin wizard neck, which is very thin this way, but quite wide this way. And they've got a sort of D section. They're quite a different feeling. This is much more like a Stratty feeling one, and miles better than a Squire at the same time. Didn't say that. I'll play it with some sort of... Sorry, it's cleaning, so I'll use one of the thin sounds, the middle sound position 2. And I will... How did I manage to turn off the drums there when I was doing that? Okay. Rat. Let's back up. Why did I do it in B? I can't play in B. What the... I can't actually do trills on it though. I've never done that before, I quite like it. To goes up here, so first pedal, no, other first pedal actually just plastic has. ripping sound, that Rusty Fuzzy. Yeah, you can always tell when a guitar, I really like a guitar, when I end up trying to do things that I can't do, which I should be doing more of. But that whole brrr thing had not really ever, that was by total fluke. So it's inspired me to play something a little bit different. Yeah, so to be honest, it's a brilliant guitar. It doesn't have the name pickups. The tuners are staying in, they feel alright. It's kind of, so I'm still humming and hawing where to put them on. It's kind of, it would be worth a bit more with the locking tuners on it, but is it actually worth the effort? I don't know. But again, a lot of these things come down to when you bought them. There seems to be a sort of peak of guitars. I've noticed it very much with Squires. I mean, to be honest, they're probably made in the same factory. They seem to have got really good, and then they kind of go up and down a little bit just as technology moves on and the ability of new factories open up with new equipment that makes them better, and they've got better tolerances. But in this era, the wood is much better than what modern guitars have. I think wood's like a finite resource. You often find that, see if you go back to like the 80s and the 90s, the actual wood the guitars are made of, the necks, especially the bodies, tend to be plywood. This is agathis, so it's solid wood, but they tend to be plywood bodies, terrible hardware, like rubbish hardware, not like this. This is good hardware, especially the automatic coil split. You know, it's like innovations in it. Seems to be great. But the wood of the necks tends to be good, and then as you get later on, sort of around about the 2000s, you start getting good hardware. I think it's, to be honest, it's just some factory somewhere started producing decent hardware that was cheap, so they could put that on the cheaper guitars rather than, oh, we've got crappy hardware, or we've got, you know, good hardware. Whereas now you get a sort of, we've got the budget option, but it's still pretty good at this era. And then once you get on to sort of 2010 or something like that, they ran out of good wood, so you no longer get decent rosewood and, you know, good maple for the necks. You end up with this sort of powdery stuff, which, not saying it's bad for a guitar, it doesn't feel as good. Also an element of age. You know, this is obviously you have to, you can't just take the wood straight off the tree and make a guitar with it. You've got to age it to dry it out and all that stuff. And let's be honest, nobody's gonna, well, maybe PRS do or something like that. They'll maybe age wood for 10 years or something like that to get it perfect, whereas this has been aged for 20 years because it's 20 years old. So that's maybe just part of why it feels as good as it does. But I have absolutely no issues with this guitar playing it live and like that. There was one thing I started saying there and I interrupted myself. I can't remember what it was though. Yeah, so maybe I kind of feel I want to do something to it just to make it a bit different. Even the fact it's silver. See, if it was just black, I wouldn't like it as much. I'd paint it, but it's not because it's silver and silver's cool. Maybe black competition stripes might be quite cool. But I'm thinking maybe a third knob for like a treble. I keep seeing, what was the brand that was talking about it a lot? Was it Reverend? They've got like a knob which is like a bass roll off, so it's like the inverse of a tone control. A tone control, when you hit it, you know, it gets, you lose the treble. But this one takes, instead of taking away the treble, it takes away the bass, which makes it thinner sounding. It's much more used when you're trying to make a humbucker sound like a single coil. You can kind of use this bass roll off thing. But I know how to do that, and I've got tons of caps to do it. So maybe a third knob in the middle, which would be a bass roll off, and I suppose the ability to get the outside two coils. But I've not worked out why I would want to do that yet, or how I'm going to do it, or how it's going to interact with the switch. So it might just be basically going up for sale the way it is. Or maybe trade for something, if anyone's got something. I mean, it's, you know, maybe trade for something that needs work done to it, like a more expensive guitar, basically. Maybe a slightly higher end Ibanez that needs stuff done to it. Maybe one with a Floyd Rose, so I could put and a scratch plate. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just talking at my rear. Still a bit hungover from last night's live stream. Actually, for everyone coming into the live stream last night, I've still got that sitting there, and it's like the memories of the Wagwan is like. But I did only drink half my bucky. You know, it's like, because I had that, I've still got that much left from it. So next week, I might buy another bottle of Wagwan and then just top it up, and then I've got my Sunday night bucky stream ready to rock. So I'll keep playing this for the next few days and then decide whether I really want to change the tuners. I kind of don't want to change the pickups. They sound really good. It's like a well thought out. It's not like it's Ibanez in it. So it's like, I think maybe their process was the old original, the way Gibson used to do it, and Fender did it as well. Back when you used to get like you got a Les Paul. It was, even then, was the equivalent of a couple of £1,000. So you get like a Les Paul. Oh, tell you what, we'll make like a student model, the Les Paul Junior, much more basic, and people will buy that, love it, and because they really like that Gibson, after a few years, once they can afford it, they'll buy the expensive one. I think that's what they're kind of trying to do with this. They're not, it's like pure, yes, so here, the cheapest of the set, whatever, an entry level Ibanez, and it's like, it's so good. It's like, what can I get that's better than this? I think you could pretty much go and argue against any of the other ones at this range. Other makes at this range. It's like, yeah, well, after this you buy the Joe Satriani one or whatever. It's like try to get brand loyalty, which I think they're kind of trying to do. And to be honest, I think maybe Ibanez are probably still doing that. Yamaha, I think, do that as well. Like a Pacifica or something. I would probably... Is it better than a Pacifica? Well, it's kind of... There's so much in the looks thing. I mean, I'm a wee bit... Everyone, and I'm sure a lot of people feel this way as well, you see an Ibanez and you go, oh, I can't do all the Steve Vai, Joe Satriani stuff. It's for going... Blah, 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 I can go blah, 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 but I can't actually do that with the guitar. I have to use my mouth. So it's like... I could, it kind of depends what you want, but I mean, it kind of covers all bases. You've got the humbuckers for the rock, and then you've got the single coils for all your Hank Marvin-y things, or anything clean. Well, what else do you want a guitar to do? All of it. And if the trem stays in really well, it's not as much as a Floyd Rose. A Floyd Rose you could pure go, and then get the strings pure flat in the fingerboard. This doesn't really go that low. Well, it goes quite low. But I mean, if you're doing that sort of thing, is it still in tune? Oh, you can do that. Hold it. How do I do this? Hold it right in, strum a G. I'll never hold the same way a Floyd Rose does. But I mean, any sort of that kind of thing, smashing, and it's really tight as well. That's how you can do that. You can do the, which you can't normally do on a Strat, which I will be doing from now on. I just discovered that on this guitar, so it's already showed me something new. And good nick as well. Completely no useful information at all. But see the cavity cover goes in below this. Kind of mad. I think if you unscrew it, you can slide it in below it, but I've never noticed it. It's like, whoops. It's like, oh, we've still got that to go on. Oh, and it's kind of on top of that. Doesn't matter. Obviously, it's a bolt-on neck. It's 22 frets, so it's not. So you get the correct neck position. The correct one, the one you get on a Gibson Les Paul, 24 fret neck. This pickup moves this way. Not as good.